Hello everyone, in this video we're going to cover do-while loops. So in our previous video we covered while loops. Now these do-while loops that we're going to cover are very similar to our while loops. The only difference is we use a slightly different syntax, so we use a do keyword, and if you're using a while loop, if your condition is not true, your block of code inside your while loop will never execute. But if you use a do while loop, you're guaranteed for it to execute at least once. So I'm going to jump into an example and hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense. We're going to start off by creating our JavaScript file. I'm going to call mine dowhileloop.js, and within this loop we're going to have something similar to our previous video where we had a counter and we had some value that we wanted to compare it to. So for this example we'll use a counter as well. So we'll say let counter, and we'll set the counter to 0, and we'll set our number to 3. So similar to our last video, we have a counter set to 0 and we have a num set to 3. Now what we want to do is we want to declare or define what's going to be executed. So for this example we're going to do something similar to our previous video where we printed out hello. So we're going to do the same this time, but we're going to use the do keyword. So last time we had our while statement, we had a condition, and then we had our curly brackets with our code that would execute. This is just slightly different. We're going to use our do keyword followed by 2 curly brackets, and now inside these curly brackets we're going to write our code that we want to be executed. So for our example we're just going to do a console log hello. So you can see there's another little bit to this program because we've got a red squiggly line, and the next bit that we have to do is we have to specify when do we want this to happen. So as I said in the previous video, with our while loop we had a condition, so we're going to have the exact same thing here. We're going to use the while keyword. We'll also have a condition. So our condition would be while our counter is less than num. So counter is less than num. So what's going to happen now is our do, or whatever is contained in our do, so in this case console.log hello, will be printed out every single time that our counter is less than num. Now we're going to have a problem here. It's going to be similar to our previous video, but I'm going to run this just to see what we get. And again, similar to last time, if you remember, we got a lot of hellos printed out, and the reason for this, we forgot to increment our counter. So you can see there's a bunch of hellos printed out to the screen here. We only wanted to see 3 because we set our number here to 3. So we need to go and increment our counter. So that's actually done inside our do. Remember, with our while loop in our previous video, if I just go to the example, we had a while loop, we had our condition, which was counter is less than 3, and whatever code we wanted to execute. But in our do while loop, the do is always called first, and then it checks it. And you might be wondering, why would you go and execute some code and then check to see if it's true or if it meets the condition? You do this in cases where you want to execute the code at least once, and then you want to go and check it and see does it need to be executed a second time or a third time or a fourth time. If you use a while loop, this would be something that you want to check for the condition before you execute any code. We need to go back to our do while loop and we want to increment our counter because we don't want to see multiple hello worlds. So we're going to go back to our do while loop and we want to increment our counter because we don't want to see multiple hellos displayed to the screen. We only want to see 3. So this is the outcome that we wanted. And again, you can play around with this. So imagine we set our counter to 30. So in this example, our counter is always going to be bigger than our number. So if we go and run this, we can see that we get hello displayed once. And the execution of our program is that it goes into our do block, it performs whatever's in there, and then it goes and does the check afterwards to see if the do loop has to be executed a second or third time. So maybe we want to try something different. Maybe we want to count from the number 1 to 10. So if we want to do this, we would set our counter from 0 to 1 because that's our starting point. That's the number that we want to print out first. And we'd set our num here, that represents how far we want to go up to. We'd put 10 in for this. And then if we go and print this as it is, we'll see what output we get. So we see a few different hellos. So if we go and count these up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So our program only displays hello 9 times. And this is because when our while loop is executed, when the counter is 10, the counter is not actually less than the number. So if we wanted to do this, or we wanted to get 10 hellos as our output, we would need to change this 10 to an 11. So we can change that back to 10. And if we go down to our while loop, we can say if the counter is less than or equal to the number. And if we go and run this, we can see the output is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hellos. So that's what we wanted. But maybe we don't want to say hello 10 times. We said we wanted to count up the numbers from 1 to 10. So rather than console logging the message hello, maybe we can print out the counter because the counter is going from 1 to 10. So if we put in counter here and now we run our program, we can see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is one simple use case for our do while loops. In the next video we'll talk about our final loop that we're going to cover, which is our for loop, and it's probably one of the most popular loops that you'll use while you're programming.